Captain Yuna Kim stood in the observation deck of the Galactic Council space station, watching the stars drift past the massive windows. She had been humanity's liaison officer here for 3 years now, and the view never got old. Earth was a small blue dot somewhere behind her, but she felt at home among the stars. Her communicator buzzed. It was Hana Lee, the young science officer who worked in the detection lab. "Captain, you need to see this. Right now." Yuna hurried through the curved corridors of the station. Aliens of dozens of species moved past her. Tall insectoids, floating energy beings, creatures that looked like walking crystals. Humanity had been part of this galactic community for 150 years, but they were still considered the new kids. Respected, yes, but not particularly special. The detection lab was in chaos when Yuna arrived. Screens flashed with data, and Hana stood in the center, her face pale. "We picked up something from dark space," Hana said. Dark space was what they called the empty void between galaxies. No ship had ever gone there and returned. It was considered a death sentence. "What kind of something?" Yuna asked. Hana pulled up a display. A massive energy signature pulsed on the screen, unlike anything Yuna had seen before. The computer matched it to our historical database. Hana whispered. "It's the ESS Prometheus." Yuna felt her blood run cold. Everyone knew about the Prometheus. It was a legend, a ghost story that parents told their children. 200 years ago, the massive colony ship had left Earth with 50,000 people aboard, heading for a distant star system. Somewhere along the way it had vanished. No distress signal, no debris, nothing. It simply stopped existing. "That's impossible," Yuna said. "The Prometheus is gone." "It's been gone for 2 centuries, I know," Hana said, "but the energy signature is a perfect match." "And, Captain, it's moving. Fast. Heading toward our galaxy." Within an hour, Ambassador Jiho Park had called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The council chamber was a vast circular room, where representatives from 50 different species gathered to make decisions that affected trillions of lives. Today it was packed. Councillor Velthar, the insectoid leader of the council, raised his many jointed arms for silence. His translator device made his clicking speech understandable to all. "We have confirmed the report. A ship matching human records has appeared from dark space. This is unprecedented. Nothing returns from that void." The room erupted in discussion. Some species were curious, others afraid. The Dalvex ambassador, a being made of living crystal, spoke up. "We should intercept it, study it. Whatever survived dark space must have incredible technology. Or incredible danger," countered the Velnoth representative, "a floating sphere of contained energy. We know nothing about what exists in that darkness. The ship could be carrying anything." Yuna watched as Jiho stood to address the council. He was a careful man, a politician who thought 3 steps ahead. "The Prometheus was a human ship," he said. "We request permission to make first contact." "Denied," Velthar said immediately. "This affects all species. We will send a joint delegation." For 2 days, every major civilization tried to contact the approaching ship. They sent messages in every known language, in mathematical sequences, in visual patterns. The Prometheus ignored them all. It simply kept coming, moving faster than any ship should be able to move. Admiral Taeyang Choi arrived at the station with a fleet of Earth Defense Force ships. He was a military man, scarred and serious. "I don't like this," he told Yuna privately. "Something that disappears for 200 years and comes back? That's not a rescue mission. That's something else." On the 3rd day, the Prometheus finally responded. Not to the Council, not to the joint delegation. It sent a message directly to Earth, in Old Korean, the language that had been common when the ship first launched. Yuna translated it for the Council. Her voice shook as she spoke the words. "We have returned. Humanity will reclaim its place. Stand aside." The council chamber exploded into panic. Species that had been friendly to humanity for decades suddenly looked at them with suspicion. The Krell Empire, a militaristic species that had always been jealous of humanity's rapid advancement, began mobilizing their fleets. "Reclaim its place?" Velthar demanded. "What does this mean? Is this a threat?" Jiho held up his hands. "We don't know. The Prometheus left Earth 200 years ago. We have no idea what happened to them or why they're speaking this way." "Then you must make them explain," Velthar said, "before this situation escalates into war." Yuna spent the next day trying to contact the Prometheus directly. She sent messages identifying herself as a human, pleading for them to respond, to explain themselves. Nothing worked. The ship just kept coming. It was Hana who noticed the calculations first. "Captain," she said, her voice tight with worry, "the Prometheus isn't heading for the Council Station. It's heading for Earth, and at its current speed it will arrive in 6 hours." Earth went into a panic. Cities prepared evacuation plans. Defense satellites powered up. Admiral Taeyang positioned his fleet between Earth and the approaching ship. Even though everyone knew that if the Prometheus was hostile, his ships wouldn't stand a chance against something that had survived dark space. Yuna stood on the observation deck again, this time with half the council watching from behind her. In the distance, a point of light grew brighter. The Prometheus was dropping out of faster-than-light travel. "Here it comes," Hana whispered beside her. The Prometheus appeared, and every screen in the room went dark. Every sensor, every communication device, every piece of technology stopped working for exactly 3 seconds. In that moment of complete silence and darkness, Yuna felt a presence wash over her, something vast and ancient and utterly alien. Then the lights came back on, the screens reactivated, and there, floating in space above Earth, was the Prometheus. But it wasn't a ship anymore. Not really. It was something else, something that hurt to look at. Parts of it seemed to exist in multiple places at once. Its hull pulsed with light that had no color that human eyes could properly see. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Dear God," Jiho whispered. "What happened to them?" The Prometheus sent one more message, this time in modern English, broadcast to every device in the solar system. "We are home. We bring gifts. Prepare yourselves." Yuna stared at the impossible ship and felt the galaxy shift beneath her feet. Humanity's lost children had returned and nothing would ever be the same again. The Prometheus hung in orbit above Earth like a sleeping god. For 3 days it did nothing but wait. Earth's governments argued about what to do. The Galactic Council sent stern warnings. The Krell Empire moved its warships closer. But the Prometheus simply waited, silent and patient. Finally, it sent coordinates and a simple message. "Send a delegation. Come aboard. It is time to talk." Yuna was chosen to lead the human team. Jiho insisted on coming despite his age. Hana practically begged to be included, and Admiral Taeyang refused to let them go without military protection. 2 alien representatives joined them, Counselor Velthar and a Dalvec scientist named Kixelar, whose crystalline body could record everything it experienced. Director Nari Han of Earth Intelligence met them before they boarded the shuttle. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Remember," she said quietly to Yuna, "these people left Earth 200 years ago. They're not our friends. They're not our family. They're strangers who happen to share our DNA. Be careful." The shuttle approached the Prometheus and Yuna felt her stomach turn. Up close, the ship was even more wrong. Its surface moved like liquid metal, shifting and flowing in patterns that made no sense. Sections of it seemed to fade in and out of existence. When she blinked, she saw different versions of the ship, all occupying the same space. They docked with a section that looked almost normal, though the airlock seemed to grow around their shuttle rather than open mechanically. As they stepped inside, the air itself felt strange, thicker somehow, charged with energy that made Yuna's skin tingle. The interior was impossible. Corridors stretched away in directions that shouldn't exist. The walls were covered in patterns of light that moved with purpose, like thoughts made visible. Through transparent sections of the floor, Yuna could see vast chambers filled with technology that hurt her brain to look at. "This way," a voice said. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once. They followed the voice through the impossible ship. Hana kept trying to scan things with her equipment, but the devices kept showing contradictory readings. Taeyang's hand never left his weapon, though Yuna doubted it would do any good here. The voice led them to a chamber that seemed normal at first, just a large room with simple furniture. Then Yuna looked closer and saw that the furniture was breathing. The walls were covered in what looked like circuits, but they pulsed like veins carrying blood. 4 figures waited for them. They were human-shaped mostly, but wrong in ways that made Yuna's instincts scream. The first stepped forward. He was tall and looked to be in his 40s with kind eyes and silver hair. When he smiled, Yuna saw that his teeth were perfect, too perfect, like they had been designed rather than grown. "Welcome," he said. "I am Captain Hyun Song. I commanded the Prometheus when it left Earth. I command it still." "That's impossible," Jiho said. The Prometheus left 240 years ago. You'd be dead, yes, I should be. Hyun's smile didn't fade. But I'm not. None of us are. Time works differently where we've been. The second figure moved forward. She was younger, maybe 30, with long black hair that seemed to flow without wind. Her eyes were the wrong color, too bright, shifting through shades that shouldn't exist. I am Dr. Sora Yoon, Chief Science Officer. What you're seeing is difficult to explain in terms you would understand. Try, Velthar said, his translator making his clicks sound sharp. The third figure spoke. He was heavy-set and muscular, but parts of his body were clearly mechanical, or something like mechanical. Living metal flowed under his skin, visible through translucent patches. I'm Minho Kang, Chief Engineer. We've been enhanced, changed. It was necessary to survive. The fourth figure didn't speak. She simply stood there, watching them with eyes that seemed to see through them into something beyond. This is Yuna Song, Hyun said gently. My daughter. She was born on our journey. She has never seen Earth, but she carries it in her heart. Yuna looked to be in her 20s, but her eyes were ancient. When she finally spoke, her voice resonated with harmonics that made the air shimmer. You're afraid of us. You should be. Yunha, Hyun said, and she fell silent. Yuna forced herself to step forward. Captain Hyun, we need answers. Where did you go? What happened to you? And what do you want? Hyun gestured, and the room changed. Suddenly, they were floating in space, surrounded by stars. Hana gasped. Taeyang raised his weapon, then lowered it, realizing they hadn't actually moved. It was just an illusion, or something more than an illusion. 20 years after we left Earth, Hyun began, we encountered a spatial anomaly. Before we could avoid it, we were pulled inside. We found ourselves in a pocket universe, a bubble of space that existed outside normal reality. And there we found ruins. The stars around them shifted, showing massive structures floating in the void. They were beautiful and terrible, built on scales that dwarfed planets. Even in the illusion, Yuna could feel the age of them, the weight of millions of years. The architects, Sora said, her voice dreamy. That's what we call them. The civilization that built these structures. They existed before our universe, or maybe alongside it in a different dimension. They were old when the first stars were born. They left behind their technology, Minho continued. The scene shifted to show the interior of one of the structures. Technology covered every surface, but it wasn't like any technology Yuna had seen. It seemed alive, organic, growing and changing. Technology that could do anything. Manipulate matter, bend time, reshape reality itself. We spent 200 years there, Hyun said, trying to understand it, trying to survive. The pocket universe was hostile to normal matter. We had to adapt or die. So you merged with this technology, Jiho said, and he couldn't keep the horror from his voice. We became part of it, Sora agreed, and it became part of us. Some changes were voluntary, others were necessary. We lost people in the early years, many people. But those who survived, we evolved. The illusion vanished and they were back in the simple room. Kixler, the Dalvec scientist, had been silent until now. His crystalline voice chimed like bells. Show us, prove what you claim, Sora smiled. It was not a kind smile. Very well. She closed her eyes and held out her hand. The air above her palm shimmered and something appeared. It was a small cube, perfectly black that seemed to absorb light itself. This is a ship, Sora said calmly. A Dalvex cruiser, to be specific. It was damaged in a mining accident 3 systems away yesterday. 40 crew members died when the life support failed. Kixelar's body flashed with alarm colors. How could you possibly know? Sora didn't let him finish. She closed her hand around the cube and it changed. When she opened her palm again, the cube was glowing softly. Now it's repaired. The crew members are alive. They remember dying, but they're alive. Time in that section of space has been edited. The room was silent. Yuna felt sick. Velthar's translator made a sound like grinding metal. Taeyang's hand shook on his weapon. That's not possible, Jiho whispered. It wasn't, Hyun said, before we left. But now it is. And this is barely a fraction of what we can do. Why? Yuna found her voice. Why show us this? Why come back at all? Hyun's expression softened. Because you're our people, our home. We've been gone for 200 years, but every moment of those years we remembered Earth. We remembered humanity. And we learned something important in the darkness between realities. Power without sharing is worthless. Knowledge without teaching is wasted. We're going to give humanity everything we learned, Minho said. Every advancement, every technology, every secret of the architects. We're going to make humanity the greatest power in the galaxy. And the other species? Veltar asked. What of them? Una spoke again, her voice carrying that strange resonance. They can accept it or fight it. But it will happen regardless. Humanity's time as a junior species is over. The Prometheus has returned and we bring the dawn of a new age. Una looked at these changed humans, these beings that had once been people like her, and felt the future shifting. Director Nari had been right. These weren't family. They were something else entirely, something powerful and strange and perhaps beyond understanding. The question was, what would humanity become if it accepted their gift? Earth changed in 7 days. That was all it took for everything to be different. The Prometheus began uploading data to Earth's networks immediately after the first meeting. Vast libraries of information flooded every research facility, every university, every government database. Scientists who had spent their whole lives studying single problems suddenly had complete answers. Engineers discovered designs for machines that shouldn't be possible. Doctors found cures for diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Una watched it happen from the Galactic Council station. Reports came in every hour. A new power source that generated unlimited energy. A medical device that could heal any injury. Ships that could cross the galaxy in hours instead of weeks. All of it based on architect technology. All of it being shared freely with any human who wanted it. But Earth was not united in celebration. Far from it. In Seoul, a woman named Minji Bayek stood before a crowd of 10,000 people. She was young, passionate, and angry. They call themselves human, she shouted, her voice amplified across the city. But look at them, they're monsters wearing human skin. If we accept their technology, we'll become monsters too. We'll lose everything that makes us human. Her words found eager ears. Protests erupted in dozens of cities. Religious leaders called the Prometheus crew demons. Philosophers warned about losing humanity's soul. Political groups formed overnight, demanding that Earth reject the architect technology and send the Prometheus away. But others embraced it. Senator Jiwoo Lee, barely 30 years old, became the voice of the pro-Prometheus movement. For centuries, we've been the weak ones in the galaxy, he said in a speech that was broadcast everywhere. Other species could destroy us with ease. We survived by being diplomatic, by being useful, by not being a threat. But why should we accept being weak? The Prometheus offers us strength. They offer us survival. They offer us greatness. And we're going to reject it because we're afraid? Earth split down the middle. Families argued. Governments fractured. Violence broke out in some places between those who wanted the technology and those who feared it. The Galactic Council watched with growing alarm. Velthar called Una into his office. This must stop, he said, his insectoid features twisted with worry. Your people are tearing themselves apart. It's not that simple, Una tried to explain. This is the biggest decision humanity has ever faced. Of course there's disagreement. Then let me make it simple, Velthar said. 12 species have formed a coalition. They call themselves the Preservation Alliance. They view the Prometheus as an existential threat to galactic stability. Una felt cold. What are they planning? What do you think? Velthar's translator made the words sound sad. They're planning to neutralize the threat before it grows stronger. She tried to warn Earth, but communication was difficult. The Prometheus technology had already started integrating into Earth's systems, and it didn't work like normal technology. Messages arrived before they were sent. Videos showed events from multiple angles simultaneously. Trying to use old and new technology together created chaos. Admiral Taeyang was one of the first to accept enhancement. Una heard about it from Hana, who had been monitoring the military upgrades. He volunteered, Hana said, her voice uncertain, along with 5,000 other soldiers. The Prometheus crew did something to them. Now they can. I don't know how to describe it. They can see possibilities. Multiple futures all at once. They know what you're going to do before you do it. Is Taeyang still himself? Yuna asked. Hana hesitated. I think so, but different. Like he's looking at something we can't see. The Preservation Alliance struck on a Tuesday. They didn't send warnings or make declarations. They simply attacked. 12 fleet armadas representing the most powerful militaries in the galaxy jumped into the Sol system simultaneously. Thousands of warships appeared around Earth and moved toward the Prometheus. They were coordinated, professional, overwhelming. Each ship was a masterpiece of weapons technology, designed by civilizations that had been building war machines for millennia. The attack should have worked. Against any normal target, it would have been unstoppable. But the Prometheus wasn't normal. Yuna was on a shuttle heading back to Earth when the attack began. Through the viewports, she saw the alien fleets appear. She saw weapons charge, saw missiles launch, saw energy beams that could crack planets converge on the Prometheus. Then Admiral Doyen Shin appeared. Yuna didn't know him. He had been part of the Prometheus crew, another enhanced human. He simply appeared on every screen in every ship, in the Sol system and beyond. His face was calm, his eyes strange and distant. Stop, he said simply, and the weapons stopped. Missiles froze in space. Energy beams dissipated, railgun projectiles simply ceased to exist. The attacking ships hung in space, suddenly unable to fire. How? Yuna heard one of the alien commanders screaming over the open channels. What did you do to our ships? Admiral Doyun's voice was patient, almost sad. I didn't do anything to your ships. I simply made them forget how to fire. Weapons are just tools. Tools require knowledge, and knowledge can be removed. Panic spread through the alien fleets. Captains tried to retreat, but their faster-than-light drives wouldn't engage. They were stuck, helpless, floating in space around a planet they had tried to destroy. The Prometheus moved then. Not physically, it stayed in orbit. But something from it reached out, touched each of the attacking ships. Yuna felt it pass by her shuttle, a presence vast and curious and utterly alien. When it finished, the alien crews were different. Yuna heard the reports later. Every crew member of the attacking fleets had experienced something. They described it as a vision, a dream, a moment of absolute clarity. They had seen what the architects had been. They had felt the weight of the Prometheus crew's 200-year journey. They had understood, just for a moment, what it meant to evolve beyond normal limits. Some of them went mad. Others wept. Many simply sat in silence, trying to process what they had experienced. The Preservation Alliance surrendered without another shot being fired. Captain Hyun addressed the galaxy that night. His image appeared on every screen, every display, every communication device in known space. We didn't return to conquer, he said, his voice gentle but firm. We didn't return to dominate. We returned to protect. For 200 years, humanity has been vulnerable. We've been weak. We've relied on the mercy of stronger species. That ends now. He paused and his expression hardened. We tried to share peacefully. We offered our gifts freely, but you responded with fear and violence. So let me be clear. Humanity will never be vulnerable again. Anyone who threatens Earth, who threatens any human world will face us, and you've seen now what that means. But, and his voice softened again, we don't want war. We don't want to rule. We want to explore, to learn, to grow. And we want to do it alongside our neighbors, not against them. The choice is yours. Accept us as equals, as more than equals, or leave us alone. Those are your only options. The galaxy fell silent. The Krell Empire, which had been preparing for invasion, withdrew its fleets. The Preservation Alliance dissolved. Species that had been talking about joint action against humanity suddenly became very polite. In the Galactic Council station, Velthar looked defeated. You've won, he told Yuna. Your people have won. We can't fight you. No one can. Yuna felt no joy in his words. This isn't what we wanted, isn't it? Velthar made a sound like grinding stones. Your Senator Jiwoo said you were tired of being weak. Now you're strong, the strongest, and everyone else is afraid. Back on Earth, the protests had mostly stopped. Minji still spoke against the Prometheus, but fewer people listened now. How could they argue against power when that power had just saved them from destruction? More humans began accepting enhancement. Not the full transformation that the Prometheus crew had undergone, but smaller changes. Better reflexes. Longer life. The ability to process information faster. Each change was voluntary, but social pressure made refusing difficult. Yuna returned to Earth for the first time in months. Seoul looked the same from the outside, but everything had changed. People moved differently, talked differently. There was a confidence in them that hadn't been there before. The confidence of those who knew they were becoming something more. She met with Jiwoo Lee in a government building. He greeted her warmly, but his eyes had that same distant look she'd seen in the Prometheus crew. "You've been enhanced," she said. He nodded. "Just basic improvements, nothing major. You should consider it, Yuna. The galaxy has changed. We need to change with it." "I'm afraid," she admitted. "Of what?" "Of losing myself. Of becoming something I'm not." Jiwoo smiled. "You'll still be you. Just more. Better. Stronger. Isn't that what everyone wants?" Yuna looked out the window at the city below. Humanity's lost children had returned, and they had brought gifts. But gifts always came with a price. She wondered what price they would ultimately pay for this power. In orbit, the Prometheus watched and waited. Its crew had kept their promise. They had made humanity strong. Now they would see what humanity did with that strength. The warning came from the void itself. It appeared simultaneously in every enhanced human's mind, including those on the Prometheus. One moment there was nothing. The next moment there was a voice, if it could be called a voice, speaking words that existed beyond language. Danger. Ancient systems awakening. The test begins. Yuna was in her quarters on the council station when it happened. She wasn't enhanced, but she felt the echo of it like pressure against her skull. Around her, enhanced humans collapsed, their eyes wide with shock. Hana had accepted basic enhancement the week before, and she fell to her knees, gasping. "What was that?" Yuna asked, helping her friend up. "A warning," Hana whispered. "From something old. Something that was waiting." "Oh God, Yuna, what have we done?" The Prometheus requested an emergency meeting. This time they didn't choose the location. Something else did. Every major leader in the galaxy, human and alien alike, found themselves transported to a space between spaces. They stood on what looked like solid ground, but beneath their feet was nothing but stars. Around them, massive structures floated, larger than planets, built from materials that hurt to look at directly. An entity appeared before them. It wasn't alive in any normal sense. It was barely there at all, more like a memory of something that had once existed. When it spoke, reality itself seemed to bend around its words. "I am the remnant," it said, "the last guardian of the architects, the last voice of a dead civilization, and you have awakened something that should have remained sleeping." Captain Hyun stepped forward. Even he looked small before this entity. "What are we facing?" "The test," the remnant said. "The architects created it before they transcended physical reality. Any species that discovers their technology must prove they deserve it. They must prove they won't repeat the architects' mistakes." "What mistakes?" Velthar asked, his translator barely managing to process what was happening. The space around them changed. They saw visions of the architect's civilization at its height. Beings of pure energy, living across multiple dimensions, wielding power to reshape galaxies with thought alone. They saw beauty beyond description, technology beyond comprehension. Then they saw it collapse. The architects had grown too powerful, too disconnected from their origins. They had forgotten what it meant to struggle, to grow, to be limited. They had become gods, and gods inevitably become careless. Their weapons had grown as powerful as their tools, and in their arrogance they had created things that even they couldn't control. The final war of the architects had lasted less than a second by normal time. In that second, they had destroyed their entire civilization. Realities had cracked, dimensions had shattered. Only their ruins remained, scattered across the void between universes and the remnant to guard them. The test ensures that no species becomes what we became, the remnant explained. It challenges them, forces them to prove their wisdom matches their power. What form does this test take? Dr. Sora asked. Even she looked nervous. War, the remnant said simply. The weapons we built still exist. They have awakened. They will attack your galaxy. If you defeat them with wisdom and cooperation, you pass. If you defeat them with power and conquest, you fail. And if you fail, the remnant didn't need to finish. They all understood. Failure meant extinction. The entity vanished, returning them all to their normal locations. But the threat remained. Within hours, sensors across the galaxy detected them. Weapon systems older than stars emerging from dark space. Ships the size of solar systems, armed with technology that made the Prometheus look like a child's toy. The Krell Empire tried to fight first. Their entire fleet, thousands of ships that had dominated their corner of the galaxy for generations, engaged one of the architect weapons. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, the Krell fleet was gone, not destroyed, simply erased as if it had never existed at all. Panic spread across the galaxy. If the Prometheus, with all its power, was just a fraction of what the architects had been, then these weapons were unstoppable. Velthar called another council session. For the first time in galactic history, every single species sent representatives. Even those who had no direct contact with the council before came. The threat was too great to ignore. We must work together, Velthar said. Human and alien, enhanced and natural, all of us. Or we all die. There was resistance, of course. The Velnoth representative argued that trusting humans was foolish. The Krell survivors demanded that the humans fix what they had broken. Old hatreds and fears bubbled to the surface. Then Unisong spoke. She appeared in the council chamber physically. The first time any Prometheus crew member had left their ship since returning. Up close, Una could see how different she was. Beautiful, yes, but alien in ways that made her skin crawl. You're right to hate us, Una said, her voice carrying that strange resonance that made the air shimmer. We brought this on you. We awakened the architect technology. We drew the remnant's attention. This is our fault, the chamber fell silent. No one had expected that admission. But, Yunha continued, hating us won't save you. Fighting among ourselves won't save you. Only by working together do we have any chance at all. The remnant said we must prove our wisdom. Wisdom means knowing when to put aside old grudges for survival. Senator Jiwoo Lee stood. He had been enhanced more since Yuna last saw him, his eyes now showing that distant, multi-dimensional awareness. Humanity will lead the research effort. We understand architect technology better than anyone, but we can't do this alone. We need the Dalvec scientists to analyze the weapon signatures. We need the Velnoth energy manipulation experts to help develop countermeasures. We need the Krell military strategists to coordinate defense. Slowly, reluctantly, the species agreed. The greatest scientific and military minds in the galaxy were brought together. Human and alien worked side by side, sharing knowledge that they would have guarded jealously just months before. Yuna found herself coordinating logistics. It was strange work, managing teams of beings so different from each other. A Dalvec scientist would discover something. An enhanced human would build on it. A Velnoth engineer would apply it. The work was messy, frustrating, and absolutely necessary. Hana led a joint research team studying one of the architect weapon systems. They had managed to capture a small piece of it, about the size of a house, though it seemed to exist in 12 dimensions at once. It's learning, Hana reported during a briefing. Every time we attack, it adapts. Gets smarter. More efficient. These things were designed to fight gods, and they're still improving. Then we need to think like the architects, Dr. Sora said. She had been working non-stop with alien scientists, and the strain showed even on her enhanced form. The remnant said they destroyed themselves. Why? Not because they lacked power, because they used it wrong. Yuna felt something click in her mind. The test isn't about destroying the weapons. It's about proving we won't use them. Everyone turned to look at her. Captain Hyun nodded slowly. Go on. The architects destroyed themselves because they became obsessed with power, Yuna continued. They created weapons they couldn't control. The test is showing us those same weapons and asking, what will you do? Will you try to claim them? Control them? Use them against each other? Or will you find another way? What other way is there? Velthar asked. These weapons will destroy us if we don't stop them. Maybe, Yuna said. Or maybe we're supposed to deactivate them, prove that we're willing to give up that kind of power, show the remnant that we're different from the architects. The room erupted in argument. The military minds insisted that was suicide. The scientists said there was no way to deactivate something they barely understood, but some of the enhanced humans looked thoughtful. It's possible, admitted Seojin Choi, the Prometheus navigator who existed partially in higher dimensions. There's a central control node in dark space. If we could reach it, access the original architect command codes, we might be able to shut everything down. It would take a fleet to reach it, Admiral Doyen said. A massive fleet. And we'd have to fight through every architect weapon between here and there. Not fight, Yuna corrected. Endure. Survive. Prove we're willing to take losses rather than use the same weapons against them. The plan came together slowly. A joint fleet, the largest ever assembled, humans and aliens together, heading into dark space to shut down the test that was destroying them. It was desperate. It was dangerous. And it was the only chance they had. Yuna volunteered to go. So did Hana. So did Velthar and representatives from every major species. They would go together or not at all. The Prometheus would lead them. Captain Hyun looked older than he had months ago, worn down by the weight of what his return had caused. This is our responsibility, he said. We'll see it through to the end. As the fleet prepared to depart, Yuna looked at Earth one last time. She thought about Minji Beck and her protests, about Senator Jiwoo and his ambitions, about all the humans who had accepted enhancement and those who had refused. They were all counting on this mission to succeed. The fleet jumped into dark space, leaving the galaxy behind. Ahead lay ancient weapons, impossible tests, and the fate of every living being they knew. Dark space was different from anything Yuna had imagined. It wasn't empty. It was full of things that shouldn't exist. Colors that had no names, sounds that came from directions that weren't real, presences that watched from the spaces between moments. The fleet moved through it like insects crawling across the face of eternity. The architect weapons came at them within the first hour. Ships the size of moons covered in weapons that could unmake reality. The fleet's orders were clear. Don't fight back. Evade. Survive. Prove they were different. It was the hardest thing Yuna had ever done. Watching ships die. Knowing they could fight back but choosing not to. A Dalvex cruiser was caught in a reality-shredding beam and simply ceased to exist. A human destroyer was pulled into a dimension that compressed it down to the size of a marble. Velthar's personal guardship was aged 1,000,000 years in seconds, crumbling to dust. Through it all, the fleet kept moving forward. No one fired back. No one tried to use the architect technology against the weapons. They endured. Hana worked frantically at her station, tracking the central control node's location. It's moving, she said, her enhanced mind processing data faster than normal humans could. The node is alive. It's watching us. Testing us. Admiral Doyun, using his ability to see future possibilities, guided the fleet through the safest paths. But even he couldn't see everything. More ships fell. More lives were lost. The fleet that had started with thousands was down to hundreds. How much longer? Velthar asked, his translator struggling with the interference from dark space. 2 hours, Seojin Choi said. His form flickered in and out of reality as he navigated through dimensions normal beings couldn't perceive. But there's a massive defense grid around the node. Everything that survived this far will be destroyed trying to breach it. Captain Hyun stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, looking out at the struggling fleet. Yuna saw something in his eyes then. Acceptance, resignation, peace. I know what we have to do, he said quietly. He called a conference with all the ship's captains. His image appeared on every bridge and every command center. The test isn't about reaching the node, he said. It's about sacrifice. The architects destroyed themselves because they wouldn't give up power. We have to prove we're willing to give up everything. What are you saying? Senator Jiwoo Lee asked from his ship. The Prometheus crew will merge with the weapon system, Hyun said calmly. Our consciousness, our existence. We'll become part of it. Use our understanding of architect technology to reprogram it from the inside. We can shut it all down, but it means we cease to exist as individuals. No, Yuna said, her voice breaking. Even with all her enhancements, she was still his daughter. There has to be another way. There isn't, Dr. Sora said, and she sounded almost relieved. We've always known this was our fate. From the moment we merged with the architect technology. We stopped being fully human. This is our chance to do something good with what we became, to save everyone. The Prometheus crew gathered in the ship's heart, that impossible space where technology and biology became one. Minho Kang, Seojun Choi, Admiral Doyen Shin, Dr. Sora Yoon, and dozens of others who had survived 200 years in the void. They looked at each other, these beings who were human but more than human, and they said their goodbyes. Yuna held her father's hand. "I'm coming with you," she said. "No," Hyun said firmly. "You were born out there. You're the bridge between what we were and what humanity can become. You need to live, to guide them, to make sure this meant something." The Prometheus accelerated toward the central node. The defense grid opened fire with weapons that could crack universes. The ship's hull, which had seemed invulnerable before, began to break apart. But the crew kept going. At the last moment, Captain Hyun sent one final message to the fleet. To Yuna, to Velthar, to everyone who had come on this impossible journey. "We were lost," he said. "For 200 years we were lost in the dark. But we never forgot why we left Earth. We were looking for a new home, a better future. We found power instead, but maybe this is the better future. Learning that some powers should be released, not claimed. Tell our families we love them. Tell Earth we never stopped being human, even when we became more." The Prometheus reached the control node and merged with it. Yuna watched from her ship as the impossible vessel became light, became thought, became something that existed in every dimension at once. The crew's consciousness spread through the entire architect weapon network, touching every system, every weapon, every ancient mechanism. For a moment, Yuna felt them. All of them. Their memories, their hopes, their sacrifice. They showed her what they saw. The full scope of the architect civilization, the beauty and terror of it, the lessons they had learned too late. Then they were gone. The weapon stopped firing. The massive ships in dark space powered down. The reality-shredding beams dissipated. Across the galaxy, every architect weapon system went silent and began to break apart, returning to the void from which they came. The remnant appeared before the fleet one last time. Its voice was different now, approving, almost warm. "You have passed the test," it said. "Not through power, but through sacrifice. Not through conquest, but through cooperation. The Prometheus crew gave up godhood to save others. This is wisdom. This is what the architects lacked. What happens now?" Yuna asked, tears streaming down her face. "The technology remains," the remnant said. "The knowledge persists. But it will never again be used without wisdom to guide it. The Prometheus crew has become part of the fabric of reality itself. They will watch over the architect ruins, guide those who seek the technology, ensure it is used with care. They are not dead. They are transformed into something new, something necessary." The remnant's presence faded, but its final words echoed. "Tell your people the dawn has come." The fleet returned to normal space. They had left thousands strong. They returned with hundreds, but they brought something more valuable than lives. They brought proof that cooperation could defeat any threat, that sacrifice could triumph over selfishness, that wisdom mattered more than power. Earth welcomed them home as heroes. Memorials were built for those lost. The Prometheus was declared a sacred monument, even though the ship itself had ceased to exist. The crew members' names were carved in stone and spoken in songs, but more importantly, things changed. The enhancement technology remained, but it was approached differently now. People like Yuna who chose to stay natural were respected, not pressured. Those who accepted enhancements did so understanding the responsibility that came with them. The line between human and more than human became not a division, but a spectrum. Yuna Song became the first ambassador of the transformed. She worked with both enhanced and natural humans, helping them understand each other. She also worked with alien species, sharing the lessons her father and his crew had learned. Senator Jiwoo Lee, chastened by what he had seen in dark space, became an advocate for responsible advancement. "My father used to tell me," he said in a speech that would be remembered for generations, "that power without purpose is worthless." The Prometheus crew showed us the ultimate purpose, the willingness to give power away when necessary. Minji Beck, who had protested so loudly against the Prometheus, admitted she had been partly right and partly wrong. "They were changed," she said. "They weren't the humans who left Earth, but they remembered their humanity when it mattered most." Maybe that's all we can ask for. The Galactic Council reformed itself. Humanity became a leading voice not through force but through the respect they had earned. Species that had feared human advancement now sought to work alongside them. The ruins in dark space became a joint research area, explored by mixed teams of humans and aliens, always with the memory of the Prometheus crew guiding them. Velthar, in his final speech before retirement, said it best: "We feared humans becoming gods. Instead, they taught us how to be better than gods. They taught us that true strength is knowing when to let go." Years passed. Yuna eventually accepted basic enhancement, not because she had to, but because she wanted to live longer, to see more of the universe her friends had saved. Hana became one of the leading researchers studying architect technology, always approaching it with respect and caution. In orbit above Earth, a monument stood where the Prometheus had once been. It was made of architect technology, shaped by enhanced and natural humans working together. At night it glowed with soft light, and if you listened carefully, you could hear voices, not words exactly, but feelings. Hope, sacrifice, love. The consciousness of the Prometheus crew, transformed but not gone, watching over humanity from the spaces between reality. Children would visit the monument and ask their parents about the ship that returned from dark space. The parents would tell the story, how humanity's lost children came home, how they brought power beyond imagining, and how they ultimately gave it all away to save everyone. The galaxy had entered a new age. Not an age of human dominance, but an age of cooperation. Not an age of unlimited power, but an age of responsible growth. The Prometheus had returned and changed everything, but not in the way anyone expected. They had come home bearing the greatest gift of all, the wisdom to know that some prices are worth paying, some powers are worth releasing, a